Feel free to ask any questions. We're talking about homelessness and BC and the addictions crisis. I am a sport outreach worker and local actor. I have been living on Vancouver Island my whole life, and it's a big project of mine to try to help people understand homelessness and addiction better. I am not for this harm reduction safe supply that has been pumped into our local addicts. Being a person who's lived in one of these hotels for homeless, I have seen the kind of destruction it's taken its toll, and some malpractice by physicians and people who claim to want to take care of the vulnerable population. I also see the patterns of crime and theft that spur, and it's been stressful to see that society doesn't actually notice that simple things like locking a dumpster will cause people to steal from stores, where there's getting rid of clothing donation bins because they're being broken into. That's a lesser crime, I think, than having 50 addicts go into Walmart a day and fill bags and pockets full of things just to feed themselves and their addictions. It can be kind of I guess, a reverse of what society wants from the people, right? But you got things like cops going in and taking tents and belongings, and what does that do? That makes someone with nothing. So what do they have to do? They have to rob, steal, or sell drugs just to get things back again. So it's a cycle. It keeps going around and around. If anyone has any questions, or they want me to talk about certain topics, or they just want an honest answer from someone who has seen this, lived this, and managed to get out, feel free to drop questions in the comment box, and I'll do my best to answer. All right. Case in point. I've had a boyfriend who's now an ex. He has lost his mind. He was an ex-professional MMA fighter. He held 2 titles in a heavyweight division in 2 separate leagues. Traveled to Thailand, back, and what I found stressful was the doctors at these hotels. Not only did they prescribe him things that he did not require, they also poorly managed it. Now we're talking getting as safe supply, being prescribed 28 Oxycontins a day, and being given 86 refills of this before he would have to see a physician again to get re-prescribed. Now, that is, to me, like outrageous, right? And I couldn't get behind it. Now, they also prescribed him Adderall to deal with his ADHD. Now, if you haven't done any research into medications, Oxycontin and amphetamines, prescribed amphetamines, do not mix. It causes severe psychosis, and it can really mess up your mind, right? So he was being given about 10 of those a day on top of the 28 Oxycontins. They started prescribing him Dilaudid 8 at 14 a day, 86 refills again before you'd have to see a physician. They put him on fentanyl patches that had to be, 4 of them had to be reapplied every 2 days. Now these are something that you give cancer patients to manage their pain, and usually they are only given one and that's reapplied maybe once a week. Now, being given 4 straight fentanyl patches reapplied every 2 days, not fucking up with your mental, your physical. He went from being a heavyweight to a 6'4" man that I could throw around when we trained, right? And I'm only 5'6", 5'7", and I wasn't weighing very much at the time. Now, I would go to the doctor visits with him, right? Because I didn't want the doctors to continuously take advantage of this. Now, it was disgusting when I was told I had to leave the office and that I was killing people and killing his patients by suggesting that getting off of street drugs by yourself without the aid of medical assistance was a detrimentally dangerous idea. Now, I have experienced addiction. I have gone through it since I was about 12 years old. By 18, I had quit heroin. So I did that cold turkey. And when I fell down again about 7 years ago and got into that fentanyl thing, I managed to do it for about 6 months before I then realized it wasn't the same. It wasn't doing good for me. I was 86 pounds. I had tried to take my life, and I decided I was just going to shake it out in a shelter, surrounded by other drug addicts. I managed to get out of that 2 weeks, right? And I was an intravenous user. So I was shooting this every day for 6 months. And one day just woke up and said, enough is enough. Now, I'm not saying it's that easy. I'm saying that if you don't have a psychological or physical need for it, it makes it a hell of a lot easier to get off of it. You treat it like a hangover or a cold. I mean, we don't have a quick fix when we get the flu, do we? We have to tough it out, sit, drink cough syrup, eat water, sorry, drink water and eat food and just wait it out. But everyone's now into this whole quick fix. I feel like shit. Let's feel better right away, which is why the fentanyl addiction is just, it's beyond. It's beyond. So anyways, I got yelled out of the doctor's office and told that I was not welcome. I'm not welcome back in the doctor's office during his visits anymore. And while I was gone, he put them on top of all the things I just mentioned, the Adderall, the Dilaudid, the Oxycontin, the fentanyl patches. He prescribed him methadose with benzo and then Valium. 3 days later, after this prescription, he disappeared to Vancouver thinking I was trying to kill him and everyone in the building was trying to kill him. He still continues to think that he is in danger. It's just a man that knows how to defend himself, who's professionally fought. He's afraid of a bunch of drug addicts and people around him thinking they're all going to gang up and kill him. So at this point, I was livid with this doctor. I started refusing to call him a doctor. I started calling him Mr. So-and-so instead of doctor, because he put a definite damper on my relationship with someone I cared about, and it has destroyed this man's psyche. So after that, he took a leave of absence because I was supposed to go to Vancouver and start college. We'll get to that later. Anyways, as for all of these prescriptions that were given to my partner, who at the start of it was fine. All he did was fentanyl. He did fentanyl, maybe smoke a little crack, do a little speed. But at one point, we had him down doing so little, and I was going to work. I was just started a job at Solid as a support outreach worker and overdose prevention person, and we have a drug testing, right? So I was getting test strips, and every time he brought something into the house, it was being tested for fentanyl, being tested for benzo, being tested for everything, right? So what he was getting, because I would refuse to let him do anything that had any additives to it that would cause more of an issue, I decided to, since I couldn't stop him, we had to dial back the harm. So at one point we had clean drugs off the street that weren't causing him an issue. I had him off the fentanyl patches. I made him cold turkey those. I made him stop taking his Adderall because they were conflicting with the street narcotics being a synthetic opiate and a methamphetamines essentially in a pill. It was causing us some psychological damage, right? Now, the problem with this is there's one part of that whole system that people don't realize is the safe supply that the doctors are prescribing in large doses are not being looked into. The people aren't being asked about what symptoms or side effects they're having. They're just being pumped with more. And to make it easier for them, when they're put in these hotels for homeless or these shelters, now they don't have to actually go down to the pharmacy to pick up their prescription. The pharmacists and the pharmacies have sent these liaison pharmacists who will go door to door. So even if you don't show up for your prescription for methadone or Oxycontin, or you just can't get out of bed that day, they'll show up to your door. And if you say, yes, come in, they will come into your house. They will literally hand feed you your prescription narcotics in your bed if they have to. And they bring candy. So they'll give you candy at the door, and they'll give you your drugs, and they'll be like, have a nice day. Now, that's disgusting to me. Because these buildings aren't promoting anything to bring people out of it. No, they are sedating them and causing more mental health issues. And then when the mental health issue gets too much for the housing provider and the staff can't handle it anymore, these people are then told to leave. They're like, oh, sorry, you've broken the rules too many times because you're too whacked out on prescriptions and street narcotics, and we can't handle you because we're not mental health workers. We are housing providers. We're just supposed to babysit, make sure that you keep your room clean and that you get fed. So all of this other stuff, we are not equipped to handle yet. So you need to go, and they're pushed back out on the street, labeled as hard to house, and then left to wander the streets. Now they have to find what pharmacy do they go to? They don't know because this person has been coming to deliver it to them. So all they know is knock, 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 Forbes Pharmacy, knock, 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 so-and-so pharmacy, knock, 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 we've come to bring in your drugs. That was what happened during COVID. So now you've got all these people that were housed, that have lost their housing, that have been pumped full of drugs with shitty side effects, being poorly fed food by these services. So they're hungry, they're sleep deprived, they're full of drugs, and this is what society has decided that they're the villain. So now you got someone with nothing, thinks the system is trying to kill them, thinks people are trying to kill them. Of course, you're getting violent outbursts. You're getting people like chasing people down on the street, mugging people. It's society has created this mental health monster. And the fact that they're pumping Valium into these people, benzo, why do you think the toxic drug supply is now full of benzos? It's because people were given Valium prescriptions, and they're like, oh, what do I do with this? I don't really want to take this. So they take it to their drug dealer. The drug dealer then goes, well, I don't know, Valium I think I can make something off of it. Then they take it to their higher drug dealer. And then the person's like, well, no one wants Valium. Like, what the fuck does Valium do? So that person, or a person higher than that, crushes it up, puts it in the fentanyl, right? And fucking manufactures it, creates the drugs, and then sends it back down the line. So now you've got benzo, which is a hypno-narcotic that literally like takes away your ability to cognitively, like consciously make your own decisions and deal with logic, and it gives a direct line right into your subconscious. Now, imagine that with a bunch of drug addicts, mental health issues, people, misinformation, lies, like society, staff, everybody telling them all these things to try to keep them kind of in this little tiny box so they don't do anything. Fucks with their head. It creates the mental health issues. Now, while living at these buildings, I, countless over COVID, all these prescriptions being handed out by doctors. Do you know the number one thing I saw? I saw soccer moms, I saw students, I saw people driving into the parking lot, coming up to these addicts, regular people going, hey, hey, do you have a prescription for such and such? And the addict's like, actually, yeah, I do. And I need the money to buy street fentanyl, which does a lot more for me than these prescriptions I have in my hand. So now you've got these drug addicts selling off these prescriptions to regular people, creating that addiction for them because they were prescribed it, then cut off by the doctor, and they have to find a different way. So now you got them selling their narcotics to these people, creating a cycle of addiction for them, and now it's a revenue process. So now people are lying to their doctors about side effects, trying to get more drugs out of their pharmacists, and also they could sell it to get street drugs, which don't do as much harm to them. Is this not sick? This is something that none of these researchers I've listened to at conferences, UVic, they all wonder. They're sitting back going, where are the Oxycontins going? Like we prescribe them, but all the people that overdose that we prescribe them, it's not coming back in the toxology reports. So it's like they were never taking them. So where are they going? They are going to people who couldn't afford prescription drugs or were cut off by their doctors and decided to go find drug addicts and say, hey, aren't you prescribed this? I would pay you money for this because it's still going to be a lot cheaper than convincing a doctor to sell it to them or prescribing it to them and having to pay for it through the pharmacy. Anyone have any questions? Have I been informative enough today? Thank you for sitting and listening to me rant about this. I appreciate it. But I can't reiterate enough that something needs to change, something needs to happen, and it's just not happening quick enough for me to like be okay with. I really care about these people. I watch them. They're my friends. They're my family. And I just keep watching the sickness. It's sad, and I can't reiterate enough about it. As for living in these hotels for homeless, yeah, it's exciting. Wow, we've got a bunch of homeless people in buildings, and we're doing good. They're being babysat by people freshly out of high school. And do you know how hard it is to take someone seriously when you have 20 years of chronic addictions, homelessness, and back and forth, and someone freshly out of high school who just did a couple courses, volunteered with Our Place Society or something, and is now telling you that no, you are not allowed to do this, you are not allowed to do that, you are not allowed to do that. Sorry, no house guests. Sorry, no, we cannot accommodate anything here. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not qualified to do that. But I am qualified to make decisions for a group of people who have tried everything else to make their life work. Everything else. So when we ask you questions like, hey, so would I be able to, say, get a storage bin to house some of my stuff and put it in and then have it taken away from the shelter so that you don't have to deal with the storage of my belongings that I have clung to and because I have nothing left and I don't have to deal with trying to get it back from me every time I ask, hey, can I go to the back storage to get, say, my ID, say, my this, and my that, to find out that you've taken everything I've owned, put it in a pile, and had a U-Haul, like trash removal guys come in while I was sleeping in your shelter bed in the early morning and remove all of my belongings and then sell it to them. Do you know how many times we buy a bike, right? A homeless person buys a bike. They manage to buy a bike off Craigslist and I manage to get a welfare check. We buy a bike, a legitimate bike. Then we park it in the shelter. Now, because the shelter goes, well, that's a nice bike. They call in this guy Well, I've seen it tons of times. Hi, recycle, we buy bicycles, guy? I've got some bikes for you. Now, these are guys that manage the shelter, right? They're calling in, and the guy shows up, and while people are sleeping or inside, they go to the back, like driveway door, open up the thing, and go, here you go, sir. Here's all these bikes. Yes, we'll expect a check from you when you possess them all. And then they close the fucking doors. Guy closes the truck, drives away. Then person's like, oh, I'm gonna go help on my bike. Hey, where's my bike? Where's my bike, guys? Oh, we don't know. Where'd you last see it? Oh, in the storage bike room. Oh, hmm, that's strange. It's not here. Are you sure you marked it with your name? Because sometimes, things like that happen. Now you've got a person that had a bike, maybe a bike and trailer to auto collect, and now he has nothing because he saved his whole check, spent his whole check on it, hoping he could use it to collect bottles the rest of the month, to feed himself, to feed his addictions, to feed whatever the hell he does. And now he has nothing. So that wastes taxpayer money on support check, and for what? So some organization can make a little extra money. Some organization that in the past has actually been like it has gotten caught embezzling from its own company. PHS, Portland Housing Society, the most disgusting human rights violation of a housing provider I have ever seen in my life. And they're supposed to be like the little frame box, how we function as a society. So now every other society that houses homeless and takes care of the vulnerable population is now deciding that that's a thing, right? That's how we function. So they take our bikes, they destroy our lives, and then what do you expect happens? You get a pissed off person, no money, no way to make money, that his last bit of wheels got taken. So of course, every neighborhood bike is now a big screw you society, because society has just fucked that man over. Because he tried to go the good way, he tried to buy a bike, get it off, fund his own way, auto collect his own way to getting up and out of that situation. And what happens? The shelter fucks him, and then society blames him when he has to steal a bike and get it taken by the cops, and steal another bike, and get it taken by the cops, and get a fucking ticket, and go to fucking jail. And then that creates this little ball of hatred for society and people, right? So now it doesn't just stop at bikes. Now it stops at, hey, look, an air compressor, or hey, look, a lawnmower, or hey, look, I can make money on that. I'm tired of collecting cans and being yelled at by the CRD. I'm tired of having to find a new bike because mine keeps getting taken by the cops because the one I paid for got taken by the shelter, or worse. And then they start turning on each other because society starts making them compete for these things, right? Because everything's taken. And the person didn't know that this bike originally was taken by this rebuy bicycle guy. No, he thought that some other asshole went into that bike room, took off his name, and just rode off with his bike and trailer. So now he hates society, hates the people around him, and that isolates him. And isolation creates more mental health. Isolation creates more stress. All right. So we're gonna have some fun. Let's get how about a video of an illegal search of a housing facility where they go into someone's room and they quite literally take people's things. Anyone else wants to see this? Mm, hmm. So let's scratch that. Let's go. Let's go through the. See what kind of pest issue people are dealing with. Oh, let's see. Where is I'm gonna post this right here. I'm gonna open this up, and here is one of my TikToks depicting. We're gonna show a TikTok depicting um, the kind of pest that they will let people live in, because one tenant at my building lived with cockroaches for almost a year before I managed to get a hold of the mayor, who got a hold of BC Housing and had them bring in pest control. Now, this is me walking around this person's place, and we're gonna get some shed light on this right now. And here is the disgusting roach infestation of one of the hotels for homeless. There we go. We have some cockroaches behind the fridge. Now, the person was made to live in this for a year before I got a hold of the mayor and BC Housing to actually come and remove this fucking disgusting display. Um, so that was just one of the rooms. By the time the BC Housing got in there, there was 10 rooms infested with these things, and it was quite a cleanup. Now on top of that, we had rodents, silverfish. People were living in their own like disgusting piles of excrement. It was painful to watch. So I ended up managing to do something about it. This is the kind of thing that people have to deal with, right? It's sad, but you think, oh, let's put the people housing for homeless, right? Let's get them all fixed up and put in hotels. But it's not the case. They are not given luxury. They're not given anything that fantastic, right? You think they're given all these things, and they're spending all this money on them. They're not spending much money on anybody. They're not doing much to help society, and the fact that people actually get out of their life is amazing. I have lost quite a few friends. I couldn't even tell you how many at this point in these buildings. I first moved out of Kent City in 2016 into the Johnson Street PHS, and that was stressful. I was being abused by my partner, and I ended up catching charges for this, and all because I slapped him on camera, and he told the police that I beat him, but it was not. It was quite to the opposite, actually. My mental health was extremely poor. I went from being 160 pounds to 88 and 86 by the time I was actually kicked out of that place. It was this, I don't know, I can't begin to tell you like how shit life there was. Um, you might be able to catch my TikToks early on from the hotel I then moved into, which was um, better, but not by much. Um, I'll show you some more pictures and photos later of the destruction and the leaky buildings and just the pure fucking disgusting state that they let these people live in that are now experiencing mental health issues, and it's just it's beyond um, it's beyond like anything you'd ever experience or see anywhere else. Um, let's see. I'm just going through some video and stuff here. Try to collect some things I can post up here and show you guys. If there's any questions, I would love to hear them. Okay, well, I'm gonna take a quick break and leave you guys with a. Here we go. All right, I'll back and anyway.